Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Chad. How was Chad's week this week?
Busy.
Busy?
Busy.
Good.
Getting in the swing of some things.
Yeah, it's the reason for the season?
Yep.
Yeah, and I got a question for you. In your line of business, does it get busier this time of year? Like around the Christmas and holiday time, does it where a lot of times it
in
seems
some
like
ways yes, and when I say that, it's because there's like time periods during the year where people are just trying to squeeze as many events in as they possibly can. Okay. So, November, December kind of becomes that. What was it I saw the other day? Wow. The season of gluttony is about to begin, starting from October. Halloween kind of tips it off, and then we run through basically January 2nd, where, there's just everybody's trying to get events in, and they all have food. So.
Yeah. Well, and it's the time of year giving and the whole thing, so there's probably a lot of different events and whatnot that yeah, I know one event I'm looking forward that's coming up too is the Roast of Rod.
Yes,
we're gonna capture that, so I'm excited about that. That's something new and different.
I wrote out a script for myself, and I'm throwing it away because I don't like it. I want to roast Rod, but I don't want to just like completely and totally. Yeah. Insult the man.
Yeah, so. There's a fine line there, because when you think about, like, I've seen those roasts before, and they hit below the belt a lot of times.
Yes, they do. And I'll just say that one of the things that led me to throw that out is I spent some time with Rod at the home cross country meet for Newton High School. He and his wife have a foreign exchange student that is running on the cross country team this year, and so we spent some time cheering on the kids, and he and I talked just talked, and we talked about one of the things we talked about was golf, because my kids are trying to get involved in the game. That's something that Rod's pretty into, and then after that it was like, I think I can find a way to poke some fun at Rod without being a total jerk. So,
speaking of golf and Rod, I literally had a conversation with him on multiple occasions about needing an extracurricular activity, right? Just something to do that's easing of the mind, just forget about the world. I like to be outside, and he said on multiple occasions, well, you ought to try golf. And I'm like, I'm a little bit old for golf. I'd try that, and I never had the opportunity, because when everybody else golfed, nobody else was left-handed. So I never was going to go and buy some golf clubs to see if I liked golf. And you know what that man did?
He gave you a set, didn't he?
Gave me a set.
Yeah, he's given away about 7 or 8 sets over the course of the last year.
I thought, So, thank you, Rod. That's so sending a shout out to Rod. No roast on that one, but the roast is coming up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So.
Yes, it is. And I was asked to write bullet points for my introduction, and I did so, and that was fun, and it was a chance for some self-depreciating humor, which was even more fun. So there you go. It's going to be a fun night, and I just little foreshadowing. Love to do foreshadowing. My ukulele work took a major step backwards within the last few weeks, so I'm hoping to recover and be ready for the roast. I'll make if I'm able to get where I need to be, I'll make my public ukulele playing debut at the roast.
Nice. Okay, so I know that we had discussed before the program. This week, I think we're pretty much just going to do local stuff.
Right.
Most of what we do on this program, I just have to say it. HCTalk's entire design is to inform, educate, and entertain. Inform, educate, and entertain. That's what we're about. We love to have engagement from people in the community. It seems like there's a lot more that happens off the record than on the record. And I'll just say that if you see us going one way or the other on the program, most of that is determined by participant engagement.
Yeah.
So
people talk to us when we're not here, right?
Yeah, right. So, recently we've covered some national topics. This week, I think we've got a full slate of local topics. And as we've talked before, Chad, I think we're going to start at the school board. We haven't talked about the school board in a while. So what's
Board
up
of
with
Education.
the Board of Education USD 373 Newton Schools, Chad?
They're going to spend some more money over at Santa Fe 5-6 Center. / the gymnasium, also known as Lindley Hall. I mean, that whole thing is, still kind of dragging out. But they're going to spend some more money over there.
Okay.
And, before people kind of get up in arms about it, they're not asking for more money because they've got a bunch left over from the bond that was done to do renovations to the school and to the gymnasium. And when I say a bunch, I mean a bunch. That bond was passed 2022, 2023, somewhere in there, for $8.7 million. And all through the construction process, the guys in charge were saying we're under budget. We're coming in under budget. We're coming in under budget. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
You really want that. So, the school district finds itself in a spot right now that because they deposited those bond funds into interest-bearing accounts as well, there's somewhere around $900,000 in that account. And that's a combination of unspent funds from the bond sale and interest that's been earned on some of those. Now, that interest is taxable, which is kind of an important consideration because the school district, while it's a nonprofit and yada, 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 there are some things that it's got to deal with tax-wise, and that's one. And if they don't spend this money, it's going to continue to incur interest, and then that tax bill is going to continue to grow, right? Yeah. So it got to do something with it. And so they approved something like $640,000 worth of stuff this week. Okay. Out of $900,000. So, and when you look at the list, they're gonna revamp some couple of rooms in the school. One is to create a quote timeout room, also known as a seclusion room. This is where they can put somebody that can't be around people at the moment. And boy, do I know that feeling.
Yeah. Okay. I want to say something there. That's to me, those are trigger words, right? So I want to break down on this.
Right.
But the first thing that I think is just not fascinating, that would be the wrong word, that I find interesting is that our public school system literally has to deal with behavior.
Oh, yes.
That then would need a safe room. I mean, how does that work,
I mean,
Chad?
and they're also renovating a special education room. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, those two things go hand in hand. They really, truly do. And, we put kids in school, and the challenges that they bring with them mean nothing. They are there, and they have a right to be there. So when you've got a kid that just cannot handle what's going on in their classroom, and they're lashing out, what choices do they have? Okay? And depending on what they're doing, yeah, you can call the cops and take them to juvenile intake, right? But if they're lashing out and they get violent and they start hitting on a police officer, now we have extra criminal charges that are coming. Is that what's best for a kid? Probably not. Yeah. So having a spot where they can go, be taken out of the classroom, calm themselves down. Man, I'd love to have one of them in my house. Actually, I kind of do, but it's a blasted mess. But So that timeout room is clocking in at just under 14 grand. The special education room is going to have an expanded kitchen and a new bathroom. That's 70 grand. They're doing a air handling unit replacement with a enclosure for it, in a room.
Yeah.
Right? They're 117,000. They're gonna replace the concrete stairs and handrails that are along Broadway. Right? I mean, that's something it's got to get done some point, right? That's almost 20 grand, and then the big expenditure is they're putting in redundant boilers. Right? As things stand right now, the boiler goes down, there's no school. So they're gonna put in a redundant system so that if a boiler goes down, there can still be school. You can cuss and discuss all these expenditures all you want. You really can. And I initially, when they were talking about how under budget this thing was, I'm like, great, let's pay off some of those bonds early, right? I mean, let's reduce our bond and reduce the interest we're going to pay, and it's like looking at all that. And then when I see this list, I'm looking at the list, going, no, I think we need to do these things, and we need to do them while we have the money, and we need to do them in such a way we don't have to go ask for more money.
Yeah, because that's enough money that if they didn't do those listed items with that money, then they would have to come back and ask for more money.
Most likely.
Yeah.
Most likely. These are all projects that could get put on a capital outlay budget. But, this is how a capital outlay budget works, right? Everybody creates their list of things they need. And then each one of those things is evaluated. Need versus cost versus how much is in the budget. And so if it doesn't rise to, we'll call it above the line, there's a line drawn. If it can't get above that line, it gets pushed off. And I have seen things happen, over my time, and it's not unique to the school board, okay? Just about everybody has a capital outlay budget. And I've seen things that get stuck on that capital outlay budget, and they just stay there and stay there and stay there and stay there and stay there, and then eventually they're gone.
Yeah. Well,
they're never done.
And I'd have to say that happens at the county.
And in the public school district I grew up in, because I still try and keep tabs on them a little bit. There were projects that got put on there and never got above the line, never got above the line, never got above the line. Now here's the key point for this conversation. And then they decided to start looking at doing a major bond issue to renovate their high school.
I know where you're going.
Sound familiar?
Yep.
They decided to do a big bond project to renovate their high school, and some of those projects that they could never get above the line got thrown on the bond.
Yeah. But then the problem
Here's the difference between us and them.
Yeah.
That bond passed. Us, we've had 2 of them go down.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. It seems like then, now this might be for some people that ask the question, well, this is just deferred maintenance. The reason we're having these issues and these things are going on the bond is because deferred maintenance, and maybe it has something to do with the fact that the project manager on that, or the maintenance supervisor on that, or the school board, or the powers that be, if you want to look at it that way, don't have the money to put up for that without sacrificing all of these other smaller things.
Well,
and
you're talking about a redundant boiler. I mean, a good time to have done that would have been the last bond issue that passed back in, 99, 2000, 20-something years ago. There was a bond that included a bunch of work for Santa Fe. Okay? That building looks a lot different now than when I came to town in 99.
Yeah.
So there was a bond that passed for that building, and that would have been a great time to do it. But they didn't feel like they could put it on that bond issue because it would have pushed it to a spot where they didn't think it would pass. Bond issues are political,
Very political.
incredibly political. That's why we've had 2 go down. Each one of them had their political problems and agendas. And so these projects here are all things that could get dumped into a bond at some point if you wanted to try. The issue is, do you do that? You know, you add another, I mean, we're at 900,000 in what they have, roughly, okay? So when that bond comes around, because folks, there is going to be a bond to renovate the high school.
At some point, there has to be.
Yes. And all due respects to some of the folks that have been around longer than me, and I mean that both literally and figuratively, it's not the new high school anymore.
No.
Okay?
No.
So there's going to be a bond. It's going to have to happen at some point. There are parts of that building that are just about falling apart.
Well, probably in the near future.
And
I hate to say it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had heard some talk at one point, you know, before this stuff happened at Santa Fe. I had heard some talk about maybe going in 2025, 2026, right in there. So it's coming. Who knows how soon?
Well,
but it's coming. So whatever they're spending now of this 900,000, do you really think we can stick another $1 million on top of the high school bond, which has gone down twice already because people thought it was too expensive and had stuff in it that wasn't needed?
yeah. Well,
I don't think so.
Okay, question. So when they decided to do that, was it a 6-0 vote?
What?
Did they
These
all
expenditures?
concur? Yeah, they had to approve
It was
those
a
expenditures.
4-0 vote. It was a 4-0 vote because we had 2 members of the board who were not present.
Interesting.
But it was a 4-0 vote.
Okay. So I'll say this, just to be facetious, but yet true to my form here. I think that if they're going to do another bond, they need to do that bond right before an election.
We'll see. I mean, there is an issue of when you can put something on a ballot. I mean, theoretically speaking, you can have a bond election just about any time you want.
Yeah.
But
They need to coincide that with the school board election.
the question is, does the school want to pay for that election?
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it during a different election that's already going on, you're going to be paying pretty penny for that.
Well, I remember there was discussions in the past when it
Maybe
came to
they
the
should-
school board that they didn't necessarily want to have a school board election coincide with a bond vote because
Well,
then
maybe
it would
they
become
should
political.
put it on a primary.
Yeah.
Put it on a primary
Yeah,
election.
get some primary voters out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we don't have 17% again.
Yeah, yeah. And okay, speaking of that, well, you did have something from the county, correct?
Oh yeah, I've got a story running on
Because you know I love the county right now.
Thursday. I had a story running Thursday about the history we're about to make with our county commission election. So yeah, that's the thing from, and the county commission. I mean, you're not going to hear me say this very often, but I sat there for 3.5 hours yesterday morning and finally said I've had enough. I'm bored. I'm tired, and I'm not listening to any more. I mean, that was me at the county commission yesterday. I need to go back and watch the remaining probably 45 minutes that there was. I'm just guessing is that for time. Okay. But I just felt like I had other things that needed doing, at that point in time. So I went and did them. Okay. But the history we're about to make is that we have 2 contested county commission races in our general election. And that is ridiculously rare. Going back in the records that are available easily to 1996, it has not happened. Now, this particular cycle is a 4-year cycle, right? So, you know, you can do the math as to how many of these particular elections have gone on since 96. 1996 was the last time we had 2 Democrats that filed. And in that case, they both filed for the same seat. So there was a primary. And then the winner of that primary got beat in the general. So we've got some history being made here.
Yeah.
And I've checked around and I've asked around and you know, the research, to do the research on the last time this happened would mean going literally back through paper records and just going and checking every election for the last 100 years to see if this has ever happened before. At the end of the day, is it really worth that time and effort? Probably not.
Yeah. Well, I'm inclined to say that would just be rare. I mean, I'll go here, Chad, because there are some things at county, too, that I want to cover with the treasurer's race. It's good that people have a choice.
Yes.
I mean, like, you know, people ask me, why do you run? And the truth of the matter is to give people a choice and to give people a voice that otherwise wouldn't have one, right?
Yes.
But also to lead with an understanding that there's an appropriate way to have these discussions, to force these discussions. And one of the main reasons, folks, if you ever wondered what's going on in Lance's head and why he runs, it has to do with the fact that tell me a different situation or a scenario in which you can speak about policy and political issues to be able to have a message, to be able to change the course of our history, to be able to present things, ideas in a way that you have an audience to do so, which then educates, informs the public in a way in which they can have that information going forward. Because you know, this, well, let's vote for this person because they're the only person on the ballot. That I'm here to tell you, even in recent history, that's gotten us in trouble.
Well, and when you take a look at it, I mean, this is really why I started checking into this. So, Democratic filings for county commission races since 1996. I'm going to give you the entire list. So 1996, and the reason is 96 is that's as far back as the electronic records go, okay, that are readily available. In 1996, there was one. In 98, there was one, and these are contested. In 2006, there was one. In 2012, there was one. In 2020, there was one. In District 3, which is the western half of the county, since 1996, there's only been one Democrat that has filed for county commission. Think about that. We're going back almost 30 years. That's a lot of election cycles.
Well, and it's also problematic because I'm here to tell you with my understanding and education that although, yes, county commission races are partisan, they are partisan positions, the mass majority of the decisions that are made at that level are not particularly partisan.
And
I mean, they're really not.
And the other reason I wanted to take a look at that is that, I mean, so I just gave you the District 3, right? Mm-hmm. And it was, what year was that I gave you? District 3 was 2012. So in 2012, Ron Crable, God rest his soul, defeated Leo Staley, 3,167 to 1,556. District 2, things are a bit more recent. And District 2 is on the ballot. Yeah. So is District 3. In District 2, it was 2020. Randy Haig pulled out a victory. 2,874 to 2,746. We're talking 100 votes. Mm. Just over 100. Mm. And he defeated Christy Shunn in 2020.
That was a close race.
That is a close race.
I remember that.
So
race.
think. I mean, seriously, that is, and that would have been, that's the seat that you would have filed in the primary.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with a Democrat on the ballot, I'll be honest, I don't think District 2 is a slam dunk for anybody.
No. I knew that.
I just don't think so, because recent history shows that it's not. Yeah. Recent history shows it's closer. Now, we can talk about perceived quality of candidates. Christy Shunn was a heck of a candidate.
Yeah.
There's no two ways about it. Okay. Randy Haig was an incumbent and a quality candidate. We had two really great candidates in that race. So of course it's going to be a little tighter than some of the others that you may have seen. And you can make your own decisions about how strong the candidates are for District 2 this time around. You really, truly can. Because we've got Mark Jenkins, who's a current city commissioner or councilman in North Newton. And we've got Terry Scott, who has been very active over the course of the last couple of years. So you make your own decision about how the quality of the candidates that we have there.
And do that on election day.
I'm telling you what, I really think District 2 is going to be a lot tighter than
normal.
Yeah,
I've found it interesting because, as you know, I am finding myself for various reasons, which I'll continue to explain, and to anybody who'd like to call me or have a conversation with me about why I'm supporting Mark Jenkins.
Sure.
Okay. So that's on my personal level. That's no reflection on who Chad supports or anybody else for that matter. If you take the amount of people that voted for me in the primary and they say, I think Lance has got it figured out. I'm gonna listen to what Lance says, and I'm gonna follow suit and cast my ballot for Mark Jenkins. It's a strong possibility that we might see that seat filled by a Democratic candidate.
Yes, it is.
I wonder how many people think
I'm gonna make one more statement about District 2.
Yeah.
The previous District 2 race was 1996. I don't know either of the two men that were on the ballot there. Okay? They predate me. All right? That was when I was living in Iowa. Okay? But that race was 2473 to 2215. So you're looking at 250 votes. Again,
that's pretty tight.
And it is tight. And it may not sound tight.
That's tight.
But when, let's take things in context. 2 years later in District 1, the vote was 6533 to 2820. That's a blowout.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're looking through here, 2006 was a blowout. That was in District 1. 2012, District 3, it was a blowout. I mean, not even close. But the last two cycles for District 2, which had two candidates, they were kind of tight.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
moving on, and speaking of something else that's going on at the county that seems to be getting a lot of attention is, I'm sure you're aware, I'm sure everybody's aware, Becky Fields, who was unsuccessful in the Republican primary against Amy Perkins, has decided that she is going to go ahead and do a write-in campaign.
Correct.
So you're going to start seeing write-in Becky Fields signs. I don't know how effective write-ins are, et cetera, but there's a lot of people that are beginning to question why Becky's doing this. Okay, and I find it interesting that, like true fashion, okay, we have everybody seems to be having their own idea or opinion as to why this person is doing this, and are free to go around and tell everybody that they possibly can under the sun why they think this is happening, but yet no one stops to call Becky Fields and ask why.
Yeah, I stopped by the courthouse yesterday and chatted with her. So,
Will there be something coming out in the Kansan? Okay, very good. I'm glad. So interestingly enough, I had my own personal run-in. I just gotta cover this real fast, Chad, because it's proof in the pudding. All right. I'm part of a group, a text message group. I've been a part of this group for a long time. They hail themselves as being a nonpartisan group that invites everybody, all ways of thinking. They want for everybody who wants to be involved in the process to come be a part. You can be a Democrat, you can be a Libertarian, you can be an independent. That is what they profess. Okay. So I've been a part of this for many, many years. And I just got to say, I had my last straw here recently with this, and of all the things that I've seen communicated on this thread, one popped up, okay? And you know me, you know how I feel about stuff, so I'm just going to read it, okay? As this back and forth was going on and people were summarizing why they thought, this was happening, why Becky might have done this, et cetera, and what this could mean for Amy Perkinson's race and everything under the sun, somebody made the claim. I bet that Becky is doing this because the Democrats probably paid for her signs, put them up, and promised Becky a job if they win. If Amy loses due to the write-ins, sad face emoji. Okay. Now, not to get into the weeds, but you know me, Chad, you know me. And I said, I'm sure that's exactly what's going on. You should make sure and tell everyone you know that you think that is true and pretend it to be true with a laughing face. And literally, I offended some people here, Chad, because then it became, I'm attacking somebody. And I was like, no, I'm addressing the fact that this is a claim that somebody's making. So where does this come from? I even mentioned in this, why hasn't anybody just called Becky and asked why she's doing it? I know why Becky's doing it. She's talked to me. I called her up and said, hey, I see this is the case. Why are you doing this? I go to the source and ask the question. Why? Right? And I'll say this. I even asked for a quote. Would you like me to share her quote right now?
Sure.
So if you're wondering why Becky Fields has decided to run a write-in campaign, right? You go to the person, you ask the person. That's unheard of, it seems like, in today's society. It seems like we'll just, make things up if we want to do that and call it an opinion. But Becky says that, let me get to the quote real quick here. And I quote, I've decided after the 17% voter turnout in August to run a write-in campaign to give every registered voter a chance to vote for experience, integrity, and loyalty. This is exactly what I provided to Harvey County citizens for 5 unopposed 4-year terms as county treasurer and 2-year term as county treasurer. Current Harvey County treasurer, Becky Fields. There you go, folks.
Yeah.
If you want to know why she's doing it, there's your quote. Read the Kansan. I know Chad said you said you interviewed her. You're going to have something.
I didn't necessarily interview her.
Okay.
I just went and talked to her.
Okay. Which is more than what most people will do.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, and in the interest of full disclosure, I walked right up to her and I said, what are you doing? Are you crazy? I mean, you're trying to do something that just is almost impossible. There is a precedent. Write-in candidate has won. It was 1990, I believe 1996.
The treasurer's race or just a race?
No, it was a state representative race.
Oh, wow.
Ellen B. Samuelson.
Okay.
So, Ellen B. Samuelson is the first politician that I ever interviewed. I actually interviewed her when I was volunteering for KBCU, Bethel College Radio. And I had a lot of fun with that interview. It was an absolute blast, but there's some parallels here. Okay. She was an incumbent. She was a Republican, and there was a lot of division in the Republican Party of Harvey County at that time. And right, wrong, or indifferent, she got beat in the primary for state representative district 74, I believe. I got to check my number on that. But she got defeated in the primary, and she just was not going to take that land down. So she ran a write-in campaign, and she won. And so the difference, there is a big difference, not only in the fact that we're talking about two different governmental levels here, but the big difference for the county treasurer's race is that there's a Democrat on the ballot. So we are not playing out just a quote rematch of Perkins Fields from the primary. We have Mark Lamas on the ballot. And so giving a little bit of analysis here, I think that's what kind of makes things a little bit bigger of an uphill battle for Becky. Because when Ellen did this, there was, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he was from down by Whitewater. There was a Republican on the ballot, and that was it. And she blanketed every place she could with signs. Said pretty much the same thing that Becky's got on hers, right in Ellen B. Samuelson.
Yep. Right?
And as an incumbent, she had name recognition already. And Becky has that, right? As an incumbent, she's got that name recognition. And after the last couple of years, with everything that has been going on in these elections, for Becky Fields, quite honestly, that's both a good and a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got people that absolutely hate her because of what has been put out there during the election cycles.
I've looked into it, Chad, and I'm sorry, but I got to say, talk about some baseless claims.
I'm not going there. I'm just saying that people have been putting stuff out.
Oh, yeah. Demonize.
Yeah,
Hey, vote against this person. They're a criminal. They're everything under the sun. Been there, done that.
And I'm not even pointing fingers as to who's guilty of all of that. Okay, I'm just not going to do it. But what she's got going is she's doing a write-in campaign when people walk in to the ballot box, starting October 22, I think.
Coming up.
Yeah. Because there is early voting, by the way.
Yeah.
When people walk in there and they get their ballot, they're going to have two names that they're looking at. And so it's not like they're walking in there and they go, oh man, I can't stand the way Amy Perkins ran her campaign, or I can't stand the way the Republicans ran this campaign. I can't stand. No, they don't have that. What they have is Amy Perkins and Mark Lamas, Republican and Democrat. So if they really can't stand the way the Republicans ran campaigns for the last couple of cycles in this treasurer's race, and I think I've used the word clerk a few times, that's something that I absolutely have dealt with for 20-something years. So I'm sorry, Rick. I'm sorry,
Nobody's
man.
running against Rick. Right, Becky
I do know that
county clerk, right?
I do know the difference, but I slip up, okay? Rick is the clerk. Becky's the treasurer. Anyway, they're going to see, if they're really upset about those campaign cycles, they have an option, and all they got to do is fill the circle in.
Yeah.
Right? And the other part of that is different is that there's now you have to declare with the county clerk's office, you have to declare an intention to run a write-in campaign.
Yeah.
Which Becky did do.
Yeah.
I think the paperwork was finalized on either Friday afternoon or Monday. But that has to happen. It's not quite as, I would say it's not going to be as easy of a job as it was back in 96.
Yeah. Yeah, and so there are a little bit of differences. Okay, speaking of this and all that we have to deal with on a regular basis when it comes to politics, and we've talked about it, and I've talked about it till I'm blue in the face of, don't just believe everything you hear, et cetera, et cetera. And I thought this might be a good education moment, right? Just to put this out there, I'm going to make this into a clip so that way people can hear this or whatever. But, we talked about debates. Right? You and I have talked about debate last program. We talked, a couple of programs ago, we talked about Lincoln Douglas and parliamentarian, the difference of the debates. And I think that goes to the inform and educate part of the program. But I will say this, Debate 101 always has to be prefaced with claim, warrant, data. Remember this, folks, claim, warrant, data. All right. So you ever hear the term, that's a warrantless claim, that's a baseless claim? Somebody can make a claim, just like I read off of here that somebody was trying to assert that was the reason behind Becky was doing a write-in campaign, which I think is just preposterous. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. You can make whatever claim you want. But then you have to have the warrant. And the warrant, by definition, is justification or authority for an action, belief, or feeling. So you can make a claim, but you have to be justified in that claim. You have to have a reason why you made the claim. Otherwise, it's a baseless claim. Then, once you have the claim, you have the warrant, then you need the data to prove what you're saying, your belief, your claim is true. And I really think, and I'm just going to say this, I know I'm monologuing here, but I believe that is the number one problem that we're having right now with our political environment, especially on all levels that we've talked about from the beginning to date, when it comes to different news organizations putting out X, Y, or Z about a candidate, the demonization, the wanting to kill somebody over the deal. I mean, you can just continue to make claim after claim after claim after claim after claim. But then what we have to do is we have to move past that, just the belief of that. You need to incorporate critical thinking skills and say, well, why is that person saying that? Let's just say that. Do they have a justification for what they're saying to be true? And then show me the proof. Show me the proof. Don't show me some haphazard whatever, whoever. Here's this, and let's construe it into whatever we want, so that way we can, be able to prove our point. Let's get down to brass tacks. Use your critical thinking skills. Use that lump, like my dad always used to say. Right? That's 3 feet above your.
Use your hat rack.
Use your hat rack, right? Think about stuff. And speaking of this, I'm a free thinking person. I know I do, side a little bit more with what I would believe would be one stance of a political party over another, but I'm not somebody that's blindly going to follow the elephant with my nose wrapped around the tail, and whatever comes out that back end, I'm just going to be able to, I just have to eat it. No, we're not going to go there. And that's not who I am. So I got something, Chad, that I think is very interesting on both sides of the aisle. There's two different things that came out. One came out on Cake and the other came out on KWCH. Pick which one you want to go with first.
I don't care.
Okay. So we'll do this because, we'll do this because, this is where I'm at. Cake on March 10th put out, former head of the Kansas Republican Party, Mike Kuckelman, called out the Kansas GOP and Johnson County Republican Party for beating an effigy of President Joe Biden with a baseball bat in exchange for donations on Friday night. What do you think about that, Chad?
They didn't learn the first time?
Well, I mean, I just, so of course,
but I guess that was up by Kansas City, so I don't know.
Well, it's Johnson County. Let's say this. Okay, so here's my question, okay. With all the demonizing political rhetoric that we see today that has literally caused people to be so inflamed, okay, at this point in time, when they think this person is bad, is disastrous, is destructive, is horrible, is going to ruin our country, is gonna just fill in the blank, right?
Well, and I'm sure that somewhere along the line we're going to get some kind of response about Kathy Griffin and what she did after. You know what? I don't care. Be the bigger person.
That's where I'm at. Where I'm at.
I mean, seriously.
Yes.
I am so tired of the what about?
Yeah.
What about? I don't care.
Yeah, take some responsibility,
Okay?
right?
I mean, be the bigger person.
Yeah. And I can't figure out what sense it makes, to be
You know,
quite honest. I mean, you can wrap whatever around
I don't
your
think
head.
I've made it a secret how I feel about at least one of our current presidential candidates. But if I walked into some kind of a fundraiser and it was $5 to take a baseball bat to an effigy of him, I would walk out. I mean, dead solid serious. Be the bigger human. These are human beings, folks.
And the key part, I'm going to say, you just mentioned something. If you walked in and you found a dummy with the mask of a presidential candidate and then paid money to whack it in the head with a baseball bat so that way you could have all your co-peers go, yay, yay, yay. Okay, because that's really all it is. Otherwise, you would just take the dummy to your house, put it in your basement, and whack it with a baseball bat, and we would say you had personal problems. But it's not even a candidate, Chad.
I know.
It's not even the candidate. So, okay,
he's gonna be president for how long now? What, about 3.5 months?
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Okay,
leave the guy alone.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Okay, on top of what I find just fascinating about this is I read through the comments. Right, I felt compelled to leave a comment.
Am I going to have to give you that lecture about how sarcasm doesn't work on?
I wasn't even sarcastic
in the written word.
Okay, yes, okay. Lots of things are lost with inflection. Hey, it is what it is. I do it too. I might assume somebody is saying something they're not with a hard attitude that they're not. You got to know the person, but I think there's a lot of grace that can happen there. Speaking of grace, but I put on there after I watched all of these comments. Just like you said, well, look at what the Democrats do. Look at what the Democrats do. Look at what the Democrats are doing. And it's like, I would expect more. I think my actual quote was, this is sad. And I would expect so much more from my party. And I had a couple people tell me, well, then you need to just go vote for Kamala Harris. I said, well, it's nothing to do with who I'm going to vote for. It has to do with I'm part of a party that then is going to be deduced to that. So, folks, yes, Chad and I, we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. We might disagree on who we're going to vote for, but neither one of us are going to go and beat a dummy with a mask of anybody and advocate for political violence towards anybody for any reason because, well, where are we at? What happens there, Chad? We have a society that then will turn into one that believes that political violence being used at our political opponents is the appropriate form and fashion to conduct ourselves. And that's a huge problem.
And not just our opponents.
Oh, yeah. Well, anybody we find as in opposition to us. Because I've had some pretty interesting little run-ins with people over the last few years.
Let's.
I've had some interesting run-ins.
No, I'm just saying, it's not just against your opponents and people, man. I mean, we got these so-called militias running around threatening to kill FEMA agents who are trying to clean up a freaking hurricane. Are you joking?
First, you're complaining because they're not getting enough response, which might be true. And then you're going to go around and you're not going to say, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and making things happen. And now we're going to turn it into what? A political event. Because in our society right now, Chad, everything has to be political. Not only does it have to be political, but it has to be me versus you, us versus them. And then you enter in this anger, which is a product of fear. And then from there, well, we're all afraid and all these people are out to get us and they're out to get us. So what? Then we can use whatever means necessary we can to eliminate that enemy. We can eliminate that enemy, that threat. We're going to eliminate that threat,
I'm just saying,
Chad.
When you start talking about political violence, it extends way beyond a candidate or candidates.
Yeah.
Okay? And
it comes down to everyday
y'all can
people.
think what you want about January 6th. I'm going to make a claim. I'm going to give you my warrant, and I'm going to give you my proof. That was political violence. No ifs, no ands, no buts. They trespassed on the Capitol. It is not your house. It is not your building. and it was locked, and you broke windows to get in, and you beat the ever-living hell out of police officers to do it. We watched it all. Me, I watched it on Fox News. That was political violence. I don't care who stirred it up.
Well, okay.
Now, at this moment.
And likewise.
I don't care who stirred it up.
Yeah.
That was political violence.
Yeah. Well, and here's this. The right to assemble for a peaceful protest goes both ways, because I'm not to disagree with you. Do I think that
breaking
January
windows,
6th
beating the hell out of police officers, and people being left for dead is not a peaceful protest?
Now, I got a question for you.
Not in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. To be completely transparent, because I know that you are, and I know that you're not a hypocrite, Chad, would you say the same thing about some of those protests in some of the major cities that got out of hand?
Oh, they were committing acts of vandalism and violence. That was not a peaceful protest.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. You want a peaceful protest? Sit your ass down on the ground. Don't move. I mean, that sounds extreme, but...
And make them move you one by one. Carry it to the paddy wagon one at a time.
Iraq war protest that I participated in 1990 whatever in Denver, Colorado, that was a peaceful protest.
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't break into any place. We stayed strictly on public property. The Capitol building in Denver was closed. We didn't go in it. We didn't hit anybody, we didn't beat anybody, and we didn't vandalize anything. That, my friends, is a peaceful protest.
Well, and I would say...
It is standing there and getting your message out, not caring if anybody really listened.
Yeah. You're there because you want to be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then when the police dogs showed up, we left.
Well, and I'll throw this one at you,
We left because we didn't want it to degrade into something that was not a peaceful protest.
So, okay, we just talked about beating Biden over the head with a baseball bat dummy with a mask or whatever the case may be.
Just be the bigger human.
Okay, be the bigger human. Now, going over to KWCH12, which I find interesting because it's the direct polar opposite, okay? And it says, KU professor talks to, I believe it's a political science class, and says... There are going to be some males in our society that will refuse to vote for a potential female president because they don't think females are smart enough to be president. Hey, that's fine, right? You can say that. But then, of course, where we've crossed the line is we could just line all of those guys up and shoot them. They clearly don't understand the way the world works.
And that particular professor clearly does not understand the way the world works.
Yeah. And I will say, after doing a political science bachelor's at Wichita State University, there were times in which I did come to the conclusion that some professors there are not necessarily in line with my same political ideologies and beliefs. But never once was there any talk of violence, or did I feel like somehow or another I could not express my deeply held beliefs and opinions, or that anybody was going to... In fact, there were times in which I had made affirm something about my belief which didn't set well with some of the people in the class, and they were immediately chastised by leadership, these professors, to say, hey, everybody has a right in this classroom to believe the way they want to believe and have the ideology that they have. You know, you don't see Lance over here doing that to you. In fact, when it comes to all of these political discussions, Lance does a very, very good job of having respect and treating people with dignity. Okay, and I will say this, all the way from Professor Middlewood to Professor Allen, all of these different people that are involved in the political science program there at Wichita State University, I have to say it, they really did their best. They did their best to try to make you question what their belief was, right? They didn't come right out and say, hey, I'm this, or this. They definitely didn't make a statement like this gentleman does. And for lack of a better word, gentleman. But this just goes to show you that it's problems on both sides of the aisle. These political parties
but let me, I'm going to ask
problematic,
this.
Man.
I'm going to ask this. Do we know, does he have a history here? Is this something that's happened before?
I don't know that. I'm assuming that probably. No, you know what?
Don't make any assumptions.
Don't make any assumptions.
Make no assumptions.
I got you.
What I'm saying is this. If there's a history of him making statements like this before, right now he's getting his just desserts. If there's not, he screwed up. Yeah. Can we all just freaking move on from there?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
But go both ways. I mean, if this person is remorseful and says, you know what?
Because he did. I mean,
I
he
know.
was,
I heard,
he was,
strike that from the record. That's my bad.
He was pretty constant, and he was telling all his students, do not post about this on social media. I screwed up. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's intention. Like
so
you said.
We get the, I mean, and again, I say make no assumptions, right?
Yeah.
But what we got there was everybody goes to social media and we get the rush to judgment. And it's just, you sit there and you go, man, it is, to do what we're doing, we take a big risk every week sitting down like this.
What, having an opinion?
Yeah. Yeah. Because people can slice and dice and do whatever the heck they want to it. And the next thing you know, I've advocated, they are saying I'm advocating for something I have absolutely no intention to advocate for and honestly never would.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. People can slice and dice and do what they want.
Well,
I've been watching this go on.
You know me.
But I'm just saying, with this particular dude here, we got the rush to judgment.
Yeah.
And
well, there's that clickbait again.
Should he be advocating for people to line men up and shoot him? No.
Yeah. That's advocating for political violence against somebody.
Exactly. I'm just asking, have they done it? Has he done it before? Or is this a new thing?
That's a good question. Because if all of a sudden, same situation, different side, the Kansas GOP came out and said, you know what? We thought this would be funny, or we thought it'd be a good fundraiser, or fill in the blank, whether it's a plastic thought or not, or whether it seems to be an excuse, or whatever the case may be. If they were to say, we were wrong. We should have took the high road. We don't advocate for political violence against, President Biden, et cetera, et cetera. And next year we'll leave the dummy at home. Okay. That goes a long way. That goes a long, long way. Similar to if that professor were to say, hey, I made a mistake. I should not have said that at all. It's never right to advocate for political violence against anybody that doesn't believe or think or act the way that you want them to. We live in a free society and people are allowed to believe what they so choose, especially when it comes to, these two constraints that were put in. We're either the left hand or the right hand, Chad. The left hand or the right hand. And I find it interesting that we're constantly having the left hand try to cut off the right hand try to cut off the left hand, but in all reality, how much can you get done with one hand? See, this is the problem, man. I mean, I'm so sick and tired of partisan political politics. It's because it's not even genuine anymore. It's not even genuine. It's hate the other side, hate the other side.
Let me give you an example of why you can't. I'm going local with this one. We only have 6 members of our school board. Why?
Because they can't figure it out.
Because when they were trying to find their 7th member, that board was, and I still believe, even though we've seen some indicators that it's lessened, that board was so freaking divided that they couldn't come to an agreement and elect a new member. Okay? If you're not willing to work with the opposition, you're not going to get nothing done. Okay? Because the situations like we have in the Kansas legislature where we've got one party that's got a supermajority and they've had it and they've had it and they've had it and they've had it. They've had it for freaking ever. those don't come around very often. So you got to work together. And you know what? There's still stuff that comes up in Topeka where they got to work together because the party is divided enough on some issues that your supermajority does you no good. You got to work together. I'm not trying to be Pollyannic. I'm just telling the truth, man.
Well, I would say it's better to work together than against. And it seems as though this is the standard operating procedure. And I'll say something else. Both parties have a problem, a very, very, very bad problem. And the problem is none of them want free thinking. They don't want anybody to dissent. They do not like dissenting opinions. That's both locally, at a state level, at a national level. You either believe what we believe, how we believe it, but the minute that you say, wait a second, what about this? Or you have any question, you choose to deviate, you choose to use your own brain, you choose to have free thinking skills, maybe provide a dissenting opinion. Oh boy, you better look out. You better look out because now you become the enemy from within. And so then you're even more of an enemy than my enemy. I knew I was going to trick you. Okay. So we're coming to both of them are enemies from within. You know, I mean, it's insane. We are living in unfounded, I swear.
Really loaded phrase,
I know.
My man.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, no matter what, I'm very observant. I'm a critical thinker, and I'm almost becoming jaded in a way because, well, we throw words around like somewhere we've thrown it's like, for instance, okay, I'll go to this opinion. Okay, the definition of opinion states that something doesn't have to be true for it to be an opinion. Okay, except for the fact that when you are deliberately speaking something that you know is false, that no longer becomes an opinion. That's
not an opinion. That's a lie.
A lie. Okay. So then you can even split the hairs even farther, Chad, and you can say, well, how about gossip?
Oh, Lord.
Okay. So
we're going back to the 8th grade.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of it. There's so much of it. Coming full circle back to the beginning of what was stated. That's not an opinion. You're just gossiping about somebody. But for some reason or another, we'll put it all under this opinion umbrella. It doesn't have to be informed, doesn't have to be educated. It can just be what it is. And this is how we get into what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. It all comes together. We watch these news organizations, and the news organizations are so opinion heavy that there doesn't necessarily have to be a true basis of data. I mean, okay, folks. Okay, we're coming to the end of the program. For my last word, I want to go move to North Newton. Okay, and I'm going to display the new North Newton flag up, so you'll be seeing that coming up. And I just want to read something that came from the City of North Newton, Kansas social media page. The winner of the North Newton's Flag Design Contest, Blaine Stump, was announced at the City Council meeting last evening. Blaine said his design is inspired by the historical development of the prairie and the state of Kansas, known as the Sunflower State. The sunflower on the flag serves as a directional symbol and represents the state itself. The warm golden brown colors represent the richness and warmth of Kansas wheat fields, highlighting the region's strong agricultural heritage. The design also includes a symbol that serves a dual purpose. It resembles a compass rose or cardinal direction and can also be interpreted as a sunflower. The symbol was chosen to honor the Mennonite immigrants who settled in this area. Blaine graduated from Bethel College in 2020 with a Bachelor of Arts degree with an emphasis in ceramics. He currently works for Legacy Bank in Wichita and is a citizen of North Newton. Conradi Insurance sponsored the design contest. Caleb Good and Chris Conradi presented Blaine with a $500 prize-winning check at the most recent North Newton City Council. That was my final word, Chad.
Congratulations to him, I guess.
Congratulations, Blaine.
Yeah. My final word. This weekend is the Health Ministry's Free Community Fun Day. It's from 11 to 2:30. Consider going. Have some fun. Sit all this other crap on the shelf for a few hours and just relax and enjoy. So, there you go.
All right. Well, We missed Andy this week, Chad, did we not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We love you, Andy.
Seriously, man, I miss Andy a lot.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. He was busy this week, so as we all are sometimes. And just remember, if you're ever too busy to listen to the program when it comes out, all you have to do is go to our YouTube page, which is HCTalk. Hit subscribe. You'll get notifications of all of our upcoming episodes. Just keep your eyes, your eyes open, your eyes peeled, and your ears open, Chad. Have a good week, everybody.